independent commentary from Mirador Television. Independent. What is good in the wine market now? Fergus Wood, expert on Mirador Television. Totally independent. Mirador Television. Independent television. Join us now. Good morning. I knew we were there somewhere amidst all the bits of pieces, heralding our arrival on the morning of the 2nd of September, Friday the 2nd of September 2022, the 9th month. My God, it was only yesterday that it was New Year's Day. Where has the time gone? But it has been a year of disaster, controversy, indecision, drama, crisis, you name it. That's where the time has gone. Can we look forward to a decent autumn? Can we look forward to an improvement in our circumstances? Well, it doesn't look like it at the moment from the headlines. We are still way mired in all sorts of dispute. And you can enjoy life outside, however, because yes, the sun is beginning to break through onto the high street. It's going to reach again 24 degrees today, and we can expect only a light breeze and scattered cloud, much the same as yesterday, which turned into a pretty decent day, all in all. And that's in the hottest summer ever recorded. That's what we've just experienced. And a lot of people have suffered from it. A lot of people have enjoyed it themselves. The water companies have poured sewage into the sea near beaches to try and discourage anybody else enjoying themselves down on the edge of the ocean. But I don't know that it worked. I think that a lot of people decided that the beach was the place. And why not? Why not indeed? Okay, let's. Shall we? Yes. We'll start off with the potter's wheel. We will, because it gives us a little bit of calm before we actually launch into having a go at absolutely everybody. Well, let's have a bit of light on the subject, shall we? Yes, we will. That lightens up our face a little bit. 8:35 now, and we are ready to get underway with a look at the newspaper front pages, as we normally do. And here we go. The newspaper headlines are a blow to Partygate probe and cost of living latest. And of course, everybody's interested in the cost of living because it is getting out of hand and it's causing misery, except to those very wealthy people who could give a toss. The Daily Mail. Now, a top lawyer set to deal devastating blow to the Prime Minister's party probe. Now, I have been saying, or we have been saying on this station for some time, that the lightweights that we have as PMs have caused this crisis of leadership, a crisis we could have well done without and came at a time when we needed leadership. And of course, what we've seen is two lightweights pouncing up and down, saying what they are going to do, and then immediately being told by experts that they can't. So we are in a mess. We're in a mess. I don't care who comes on. Oh, they say Liz Truss this and Richie Sunak that. But the fact of the matter is that they are lightweights. We can't expect much from them between now and the next election. And in my opinion, because of this latest situation, which bears out what we've been saying about the level of competence of MPs in Westminster, we could see the end of the Tory party as such. What the PM party probe is about is that a top QC will deliver a devastating blow to an investigation by MPs into Boris Johnson. Lord Panic is expected to say the way MPs are conducting the so-called Partygate inquiry risks endangering democracy. The Commons Privileges Committee has threatened to punish Mr. Johnson, even if he only inadvertently misled Parliament over gathering at number 10 during lockdown. A right witch hunt. A right witch hunt. Oh, let's feel morally upright about an iced cake, a half bottle of champagne, and a packet of crisps. Let's feel morally upright. To hell with the fact that people in this country are suffering badly, that we're facing a crisis, that we're at war. To hell with that. Let's concentrate on the package of crisps and the iced cake. How stupid and irresponsible can they be? But they can be, and they have been, and now they're going to be found out. Thank God for that. The Daily Express follows up on that. Now, even Boris critics say Partygate probe is wrong. Boris Johnson misled Parliament, could paralyse democracy, comes from one of Mr. Johnson's fiercest opponents. The bombshell finding by Lord Panic is said to be absolutely identifying. Lovely, it isn't spelt the right way, but a lovely title, isn't it? Lord Panic. Absolutely devastating for the Commons investigation, branded a witch hunt by Mr. Johnson's allies. Now, on that same front page, there is a picture of Bill Turnbull. We are in an age, I'm afraid, where everybody is lightweight. We have nobody with particular skill because they haven't bothered to learn their trade, and broadcasting is one of them. The standards by the state broadcaster, and for that matter, the other senior broadcasting enterprises, is particularly low. In fact, very low. But there are one or two outstanding people who have bucked the trend, and Bill Turnbull was one of them. He was a giant in the broadcasting industry. He's died at age 66 from let's see, it's the prostate cancer. Yeah, I mean, he's popped his clogs, and he's gone on to a better place. And my God, I'll tell you, there can't be any worse places than this right here, right now. And he was a very, very accomplished man in front of the camera and in front of the microphone, and for that matter, out on the concourse being a reporter. He was excellent. The only thing is that amazes me is the BBC have a really great track record of firing anybody who's innovative or got any new ideas. I'm amazed that he lasted. But there you are. That's another story in another day. The I. Energy firms plan to tackle crunch. The energy firms' plan to tackle the crunch would cost taxpayers tens of billions. It says a leaked draft letter to the next Chancellor reveals that UK energy companies demanding billions in taxpayers' funds to protect businesses around the country from going bust. Well, what they could do is that they could start to cut their dividends. They could start to cut their obscene amount of money that they pay to their executives, and they could very quickly start to share some of the good things around and cut their billions and billions of dollars of profit to the benefit of the payer. But I do have a slight sneaking respect for their position, or sympathy for their position, because this goes back really is well over 7 or 8 years to bad decisions that were made at the time about our energy policy, and which now are chickens coming home to roost. Yes, sir, be my baby. The Times. COVID-style tax breaks for firms facing ruin. And what does that say? Plans for a multi-billion-pound package of tax cuts to help businesses facing bankruptcy because of rising energy costs. The Chancellor is working on an emergency strategy for the new Prime Minister, which could learn the lesson from COVID and introduce targeted reductions in VAT and business rates to help retail and hospitality sectors. Well, the plan in COVID was poor, to say the least. It ignored 3 million small businesses to start off with. It didn't help them at all. It has destroyed the pub sector, which now is so schizophrenic, it doesn't know whether it's a pub to attract people to have a drink or a restaurant to attract them to have something to eat. And very few have managed to find the balance. There is one or possibly two in Lewis that have done so, but most of them haven't. And now they're in trouble. But are they being helped by the breweries? Is the government going to talk to the owners of these pubs who charge tenants an arm and a leg? Why? For more greater profits. I am all for profit. Do not misunderstand me. I am a free enterpriser, an open marketeer. But when it gets out of hand and it gets obscene, as it has in this country without any curbs to the right, while we're searching curbs to the left to stop strikes and so on, is adding to the misery. Lloyd's Bank, £8 billion profit. £8 billion, and that was just one bank. Probably by the time you've added it up, it must come up to about 25 billion in profits. Oh, and how are they helping? They're quick to send around notes saying, oh, if you paid £5 more on your credit card, what we would do is you would pay it off faster. Well, how about instead of the 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30% charge that you put on, the interest rate that you put on this borrowing method, is that you actually cut down your demand to say 20%, and even then it would be obscene. Cut it down to 10 or 12% instead of racking up these huge profits and then paying them out to shareholders after we, the people, bailed you out. Some of you anyway. The world has gone mad. It's topsy-turvy. The Daily Star. Genius bozo solves UK's energy crisis. But the dear old Star has picked up on Boris, who in the side yesterday said, if you want to help save energy, is buy some of the new electric kettles and things that cook and boil water and so on and so forth. If you buy the new ones, they are much more energy efficient than the old ones. And of course, what the Star has picked up on is that he's suggesting that that's the answer to the energy crisis. It's further can be further from the truth, but I find it difficult to get angry at the Star. It's such a wonderfully stupid newspaper. They bring smile to our lips all the time. The Financial Times. Putin broadens the scope of war on anti-Russia enclave of Ukraine. And what the FT is saying is that Putin has dismissed Ukraine as nothing more than an anti-Russian enclave, as Moscow delivers a fresh threat to Western efforts to curb surging energy prices. Well, once again, we said on this program, when the war first started over 6 months ago, we needed to stand up to this man then and there and say, go back over your borders. Because the rush to show how wise we were by using embargoes and not chancing another war was so wise. And I said at the time, the thing with using embargoes as a strategy for opposing militant and military action is normally that the people who impose the embargoes are the people that suffer in the long run. And so it's turning out to be. We're in a stitch when it comes to Russia, and for that matter, Ukraine, because much of our grain came from Ukraine. And because it's a war zone, exports have been cut. So we're not getting the food that we need. And that's bumping up prices and adding to inflationary pressures. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh me. The Mirror, on the run. It turns to the murder of 9-year-old Olivia in Liverpool last week. And it says, on the run, Olivia's killer, because CCTV footage has been released showing a bloke, it looks like a bloke running away. It says police have revealed the 9-year-old killer used 2 guns. It quotes the Chief Detective Inspector, Mark Kameen, saying, I want to know where those guns are. Well, if I may say so, once again, chickens come home to roost. The police have played footsie with criminals. You can't find a copper on the beat anywhere. And now, because traditionally the way that they got information was by mingling with the criminals, quite often undercover, was how they found out what was going on. Nobody is speaking about this one. So where is the police intelligence? It is found wanting when it comes up against a real case. So there's another area that needs a look at. The thing is, that among the establishment, amongst civil servants, amongst our politicians, is the word reform is a dirty word, because what they see when they hear the word reform is that some of their lollipops will be taken away, some of their privileges, some of the perks, and perhaps even some of their salary. No reform, thank you. Certainly not. We do not want any curb on the amount of money and the extra special privileges we get, like subsidized bars, subsidized meals, free transport, second mortgages, you name it. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. The Guardian revealed 2 out of 3 police forces are hit by an increase in gun crime. Oh, why is that, do you think? Well, first of all, we've got a lot of illegal immigrants from countries which don't respect gun laws. They're quite happy to have their criminals wandering around waving guns in the air. But secondly, because checks have been stopped because they were racist. Now you can just keep a gun in your car, and the chances of you ever being checked by the police are minimal, because they are worried silly that they will, if you've got anybody with color at all in the car, that you will be told that you're racist and be heavily criticized, even to the point of having your face propped up on the front pages of newspapers, not only here but throughout the world. It is diabolical. It is diabolical. The police forces need reform, just the same as almost everything else does. The Daily Telegraph. GPs given record pay rises in the pandemic. Aha! Do you know how much the average GP is earning? £142,000. And having cut back so that you can't get a surgery date, appointment, so you can't talk to a doctor, you can't get this and you can't get that, and that the poor old doctors who are overworked, so they're only on about 3.5 days a week. It is absolutely appalling. And now they are being rewarded with over £142,000 a month, a year. And now they were record pay rises, and they're demanding more. The Sun. A serious bad altitude, it says, is what that's all about. Oh, yeah, now this is outrageous. This does need looking into. The number of Whitehall civil servants used the Prime Minister's official jet for a shameless £50,000 boozy jolly over Britain. The Sun says the 700-mile red carpet trip with the plight, compared with the plight of ordinary Brits struggling with the cost of living, is disgraceful. And it is disgraceful at any level, even if we were still fat and sassy, that civil servants should use a jet at the taxpayers' expense to have a jolly. I don't mind if they want a jolly. Hire an aeroplane and fly over wherever and drink champagne and so on, but don't use taxpayers' money to do it. I don't feel like paying or helping to pay for that sort of party. And okay, you can say envy, because I would still like to be part of that party, but I don't want other people to be if I can't be. Rubbish. Rubbish. Never mind iced cake. This is the sort of thing that the House of Commons Privileges Committee should be looking into, but won't. Certainly not. Certainly not. I haven't seen what happened to old dear Rees-Mogg's idea. It is saying, if you ain't coming to work, if you want to work from home, we're going to sell your offices. I thought that was absolutely brilliant, but nobody's followed up on that. I wish I could find out. Of course, the thing is that Rees-Mogg is very controversial about a lot of things, but he's always got his tongue in his cheek and comes up with some stuff that, although it's outrageous, makes you say, yeah, not a bad idea. Not a bad idea, Mr. Rees-Mogg, sir. And this one of selling the offices from under the civil servants if they're not going to use them is an excellent one. Just absolutely brilliant. The Metro. Thank you, Bill. The Metro goes with a tribute to Bill Turnbull, and I've already said that this man was a giant in the industry, and it doesn't have many giants nowadays. But Bill most certainly was. He was a superb broadcaster, absolutely superb broadcaster. And his death at 66 from prostate cancer is something that is unhappy for all of us. So there we are. Those are the news headlines. If I go to the back pages, then I find that I don't get much joy either. It's all about, well, actually, there's one bit of good news is that we seem to be doing quite well in New York in the tennis. There are still a few left going through to other levels, even though the darling of the courts, Raducanu, has been knocked out in the first round. I don't really want to know. I don't want to sign in. For God's sake, everybody wants you to sign in nowadays. I don't blame them in some ways, because I've been threatened a blackmail threat that all my emails and Hotmail and all the rest of it is going to be exposed on the on social media by somebody who's demanding £2,500 from me. He's got a hope. I couldn't raise 250 this morning if I wanted to, but the fact is that oh, come on. The fact is that this sort of thing can occur. Actually, I'm the same as anybody. I got my naughty things there, things that I wouldn't want anybody else to know. But what the hell? That's what the internet is about, and a lot of stuff is thrown into my email account without me even knowing, because I don't check the junk very carefully. So if anybody wants to blackmail me, they can. And once we've tried it, and when the search, as it undoubtedly will, gets set, then this man can expect merciless treatment from us. So, good morning.
Good morning.
Right, we've just got a beautiful lady who's come into the bar. How are you?
Oh, if you found someone.
You found somebody, right? Okay. Why do we have all this nonsense that? No, I don't want to go create a free account or whatever. I just simply want to go to my Facebook page. That's what I want. I don't want to have to sign in, because I don't know what the password is. I just want to go, and 9 times out of 10 I can. And that is what is the people that set these things up are just so infuriating. They can't protect us, and what they do is they make it absolutely impossible to find what's going on in the world, because they want passwords. Got it. Right, okay. Now let's see. That is sent. Don't want that. I want the inbox, because I've got something this morning that Stephen Catlin, our former mayor and still a councillor in Lewis Council, the town council, as he said he held this until this morning, an embargo until this morning. But he says the report on the 2011 census showed that 68.25% of the Lewis population lived in poverty. And it's time that the more strategic authorities realized this and did more to fulfill the hopes and aspirations of the bulk of Lewis residents. So Stephen says that the census says that 68.25% of people living in Lewis town live in poverty. Well, I can understand living in poverty. You never know what's what. But what is poverty? I have to say, Stephen and I do not think alike politically, but we are good friends, and we share our disdain of the incompetence of many of the institutions and the people in the institutions in our governance system. But I diverge a little from him this morning, because it depends what standard we set for poverty. What bothers me is that I see people who are supposedly in the poverty band wearing trainers that cost, if you go onto the internet, even at the cheapest price, cost a couple of £100. Their children are playing computer games, which likewise cost a couple of £100. they actually go and enjoy themselves or buy designer clothes or whatever. Once again, that costs a couple of £100. Are these the people in poverty? I think we have to take a lot into account when we say poverty, but I think he's probably right. I would put the figure perhaps at 25%, and that's unacceptable. But if he is right, if it's 64.8%, is that what it was? Yeah. 68.25% of people living in poverty. But he's right also when he says the strategists in both the county council and the district council should be looking at that instead of poncing around with their vague ideas about green stuff, and start to look after people. You know, this is where the next MP is going to come from. No wonder we have trouble in the House of Commons if this is where our MPs are going to come from. They are second raters. No, I take that back. They're third raters. Without any real idea of what they should be doing, only that they make great statements. Why? Lewes District Council does almost everything online, and yet by its own statistics is well over 50% of its population are well over 40, most over 60. The computer generation didn't even start until 1993, when Windows was first invented. You work it out. That 60% didn't grow up in a computer literate society. They didn't have the benefit of the kids now, who can work wonders with them. But how did the district council send out its messages? Why? On a website, of course. Ha! Idiots. I'm sorry, but it's endemic throughout our governance system. It's endemic throughout our political system. And that goes for all the parties, not playing favourites. Just very few people with any common sense or with any sense of purpose in our political system anymore. They're all something or others with their own agendas. Anyway, that's a news item. A news item from Stephen Catlin. Not to be taken lightly. Stephen is one of the few serious politicians that we've got. And I must say, when he speaks, I pay attention. Where are we? We're at 9:04. Already. Huh?
Well done, the energy companies. They're full of bright ideas to help their customers. Now they've made power so expensive that for an average house such as this, you can't afford to heat it. So you don't need appliances such as this. But that means you also don't need a fridge, because you can keep your groceries cool and fresh without it. The house is cold enough. Well done, chaps.
Ha ha ha! Ha ha ha! Ho ho ho! Where is all this coming from? Try this. Mirador Television. And who is Mirador Television? Well, it is a small but influential online web-based television service coming out of the White Hart Hotel in Lewes in East Sussex in the UK. And the White Hart Hotel is famous because it is where, under the rafters that you see behind you, Tom Paine worked on his famous Rights of Man, a late 18th century philosopher, soldier, adventurer, and a remarkable mind. Tom Paine developed the Rights of Man on the basis that elitists, the king with the divine right of kings, the barons with their own self-serving interests, should not be the only ones to govern. And he took his ideas to the new colonies. And there he persuaded the colonists that they, being taxed by the central government at home, in other words, Parliament and the king, was not going to end. And since they were pissed off at the amount of tax they were paying, he urged them to take up arms, which they did. And the War of Independence is now a matter of history. And the United States, which Bill Bryson, the historian, says that Tom Paine named the United States, it now exists as a powerful force. Incidentally, I have been something of a critic of Joe Biden, but I thought that his speech that he made yesterday about the threat from within to democracy was a brilliant piece of statesmanship. Yes, he said, there are all sorts of things externally that are a threat to the United States, but let us not ignore the fact that the riots and the invasion of the Capitol at the end of President Trump's regime was a flagrant breach of rule of law, was undermining democracy, and would have led to all sorts of restrictive powers given to the leader. So give him full marks for having recognized that, having set out to do something about it, and giving for Joe Biden, a very powerful speech. If you didn't see it, go and look for it. Okay, Keith. Let's see if we've got somebody else other than my golden tones. Well, here's one that, particularly since it's a Friday and we're just entering the new era, and that we will be tackling the autumn very soon on this channel. Let us see what Lewes is all about. This is where we come from. This is our base, and this is what it has to offer. Well, it should have. Well, that's our little town, and not a bad little town at that. Well, we'll get rid of the Laughing Cavalier, and we'll get back to one or two more serious things, because the Guardian, their front page is revealed 2 out of 3 police forces are hit by an increase in gun crime. Now, one of the inside stories in the Mail this morning is mums forced to patrol streets as police fail to hunt violent thugs. There's, oh dear, I put my spectacles down and I need to be able to read a little bit of this, because it backs up what we've been saying, is that the police need a radical shakeup. And reform is as a nasty word to the police as it is to government, civil servants, industry, and so on. Reform is as plain on your face required in our makeup of the UK economy. And forget even the UK economy, our civil structure. Reform is desperately needed. But will our leaders look at it? No, sir, they will not. Because reform is going to take their lollipops away. So a group of mothers have claimed they have been forced to patrol the streets because police are failing to protect their children from brutal gang attacks. This is in Chorley in Lancashire. And the assaults filmed and posted on social media are horrendous. The shocking footage shows youngsters screaming as they are dragged to the ground and punched and kicked. And the mums have said enough is enough. The police won't do it, we will. But that seems to be the story throughout the country. The police won't do it and we will. So why do we need to pay for the police out of the public purse when in fact volunteers are on the streets? It's not that long ago, it's only in the 1800s, that we got a structured police force. Sir Robert Peel, hence the name that was given to police for a long time, Peelers, or Bobbies after Robert. And we still use the term Bobbies, not so much Peelers. He recognised as Home Secretary that we needed some form of a structure to policing of our streets as we became a more mature and sophisticated society. And so the first police forces were formed. And they were out on the streets. And they were keeping the peace. And they were bonking criminals over the head and arresting them and hauling them down to the police station. That doesn't happen anymore. There are no police on the streets. And 9 times out of 10, if there is something they have to go to, they go by car. Because they don't have anybody in the local area. All that is all well and good, very modern, except that now, by their own estimates, it's only 4% of burglaries and petty crime that gets investigated. Doesn't go anywhere, no matter who actually reports it. Amazing, absolutely amazing. Now they'll say, yes, but there's the huge cybercrime increase. Well, there is. But just taking all the coppers from one activity to another doesn't solve the crisis. All it does is it papers over the cracks. And this idiotic idea that somebody has come up with that everybody in frontline policing, including the coppers on the beat, take that back, there are no coppers on the beat, but the lowest constables should either have a degree or get a degree or be helped to get a degree so that they can become coppers. How a degree helps you face somebody who is being a naughty boy and that you're going to need to deal with face to face, if we do go back to coppers on the beat, I have no idea. But I also don't see how it helps with anything else either. It's a nonsensical, woke, quote, liberal thought, which should stay with the think tank. In my career as a journalist, I've been out with the police, been out with them all night on patrol. I've been out with the army on the streets of Belfast in the middle of the night. I have worked with the mafia, or at least worked close to the mafia, reporting on them. I've done the cop shop stuff. I know the sort of things that come into a police station. I know the things that need to be dealt with. And we, in our wisdom, do not deal with them in any sort of way that sends a message. We are so busy. And also, as I understand it, stop and search was stopped. No stop and search now in case the police are accused of being racist. Well, the chief inspector of police has told chief constables, stop it. Stop your constables taking the knee. Stop them dancing with crowds that are rioting or holding up traffic. Stop them in any way from being or appear to being biased. They should be an unbiased force willing to deal with anybody on any level. And they should also be on the front line and not dancing and taking the knee, but actually getting on with the job of clearing up our streets, not allowing only 4% of burglaries as petty crime to be reported. Reported, not necessarily resulting in a conviction. It's not good enough. It is simply not good enough. And I think that we need very much to take heed of these warnings, which are now starting to come out. Yeah, they're starting to come out. What about this? Uh-oh.
Murdo's food tip of the week. Hot buttered toast. Have we forgotten how wonderful, simple, hot buttered toast can be? Ingredients simple. Bread and butter. Hot buttered toast. Mirador's food tip of the week. Try it.
We've forgotten, haven't we? We have forgotten just what some simple things are like. There's been yesterday some professor. Oh, excuse me. Shoo, 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 ha, ha, shoo. Achoo. There we go. Happens every morning, just about this time. Normally, there's a video playing and I get away with it, but this morning I couldn't. So there you are. You see me choo-choo. Yesterday, there's a report from some professor that says if we don't have heat, the children's brains are going to addle and that they will all fall apart and some of them may die. Well, hot buttered toast, which no kid would touch today with a barge pole, was a staple diet just after the war, actually during the war. And as you can see, quite right, without heat and warmth and food, brains get addled, because I grew up in that period and we didn't have central heating, had hot water bottles, had coal fires. Oh yeah, okay. Glad to have done away with coal fires. But even so, we didn't get our brains addled. We were able to carry on as normal children. We didn't die because we didn't have heat and light and fuel. And in fact, one of my Canadian editors in radio once said to me, because he served with Edward R. Murrow on Fleet Street during the war as a reporter, and he said that the British diet during the war was probably the best that we could have had. It kept us body and soul together, but we didn't have a lot of naughty things to make us obese. I want to say fat, but I'm not supposed to. Not that that's going to stop me. But times were different then. And of course, a lot of people will point and say, yeah, there he goes, it's when I was a boy. But the fact is, there is no reason why we can't make comparisons, and that somebody is saying that the present energy crisis is going to cause children to die and have their brains rattled, or not rattled, what is it, raddled, riddled, whatever, is absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. You know, we as a nation managed to ignore lessons from the past. There is a Roman villa at Fishbourne near Chichester. I think it's just over. Is it West Sussex still? Yes, it's West Sussex. Near to the town of Bosham, where the tide comes in at a great rate of knots. But there is a Roman villa, and with a prime example of central heating through hot water as practiced by the Romans. And that was around about 300, 400 AD. Are we surprised that it wasn't until almost 1990 that we started to make sure that all homes were fitted with radiators, central heating, and so on? We never bothered to learn. We never bothered to pay tribute or any interest in history, which could have taught us such a lot of lessons, because we were so sure that we had got it right. We were in control. And that's where we sit today. We've got more people telling us how to do things, and if we don't agree with them, trying to take punitive action against us, these woke people, as they're called, you can shake a stick at, and they have got all these fancy theories about what it was like in the past and how we shouldn't let it happen again. BS. Yes, there are a lot of inequities, and there still are, but there are also a number of things which we could have kept, we could have retained, instead of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Ah, dear, oh dear, oh dear. There, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. It makes you wonder. It makes you wonder. No, we haven't. Yes, I thought we might have Melissa on, but it's a bit early for her yet, because it's only 4:00 in the morning in New York. So let's see what else we might have tucked up in our little box of tricks. Let's. We showed this a couple of weeks or so ago, and we got a lot of really nice comment on it, because people hadn't realized what happened in Lewis as far as the racecourse is concerned. So this is from our award-winning, well, not award-winning, but well-acclaimed documentary, The Bloody Past of a Tiny Town. And it is the episode about the races and how local police stopped criminal gangs in the 1930s from terrorizing bookies and punters and those who enjoyed a day at the races.
He sat on the bank while the river still chattered onto him, a babbling procession of the best stories in the world. That was the excitement that Mole experienced in the story Wind in the Willows. And indeed, rivers large and small everywhere all have many stories to tell. The River Ouse that flows through Lewes is no different. In fact, for much of the town's history, it has played an important part. Today, the river carries nothing but pleasure craft. But for a long time, it was a busy, bustling port. About a mile upstream from here is the village of Hamsey. It sits on a triangle of land which splits the river as it curves down towards the town. Hamsey is barely a village today. A few houses with the 13th century church standing in splendid isolation. But Hamsey was a Saxon port in the pre-Norman era. Historians estimate that over 1,000 people lived here, populating a port that saw ships sail up the Ouse to trade goods. There is no doubt that the Normans had a bit to do with its demise. The area was handed over to a Norman lord. But the community was attacked by an enemy it couldn't stop. An army of rats, which disembarked from one of the visiting ships, went ashore and infected the village with bubonic plague, the Black Death. The disease devastated Hamsey. And while there is no historic evidence, legend has it that the residents barricaded themselves in to prevent unaffected people coming in and diseased people getting out. Eventually, they starved to death. Named after the black rats which carried the plague, the Black Death killed over half the population in Britain between 1348 and 1349. The survivors founded another village off Ham, the modern thriving village of Opham. The plague attacked Lewes several times over the following centuries, each time causing significant loss of life. So death continued to stalk Lewes, bringing tragedy to the high street in rather greater measure than other UK high streets. Hamsey gone, but Lewes as a port flourished. Ships and barges plied their trade up and down the Ouse, creating an exciting and bustling waterway. Many of these buildings, which stand on an extension of the high street in an area called Cliff, are built with old ship's timbers. Where Argos now stands was a sailor's pub called the Bear, built as a brewery in 1787, and it succumbed to the carelessness of revelry and burned down in 1918. This quiet domestic street, which runs for a short distance parallel to the Ouse, was the sailors' playground, and history relates that there were more than a dozen brothels successfully operating. Today, this street is known as Little Chelsea. Even the name makes it seem a nice place to live. The rather small abodes have found favour with many modern Louisians and are now favoured homes. And why not? They look good in a twee kind of way. And if you're not living in a former brothel, there are other historical backgrounds to raise the interest. All this talk of pubs and trading around town, it saps my energy. So I sometimes come to this little oasis. The Notts Garden in Southover Park. A lovely little hideaway. Back to the High Street, or at least its extension into the cliff area of Lewes. So I've been wandering around here because Lewes is full of antique stores and models. As I mentioned, go inside some of these shops and you'll find that they're supported by old ship's timbers. Another reminder of the days when Lewes was a port. All this talk of water has made me thirsty. I made several mentions of the time Lewes had 63 pubs. As you would expect, among the 16 that are left, there are some with strong ties to the community. Over the road from the shops, held up by ship's timbers, is the Gardener's Arms. There seems to be a tradition in Lewes, although no one admits to it, of omitting the epithet pub or tavern. This pub is called by locals simply the Gardener's. And the Gardener's it was. The origins of this pub go back to when it was an ordinary house, owned by a gardener. Often, after work, he would invite other gardeners into his front room for a drink. Eventually, it made sense to formalize the ritual, so it turned into a pub. The Gardener's is a true pub. Unusual now, it only serves pork pies and sausage rolls. Yet each year it's in the top tier of finalists for Pub of the Year. Magnificent. Back to the Street of 1,000 Brothels. Well, perhaps not 1,000, but a few anyway. There's a pub called the Snowdrop. Nice pub, they tell me. Interesting for its name and where it stands. This is the site of England's deadliest avalanche. Just after Christmas in 1836, heavy snow built up on the edge of the downs. There were 7 cottages here where the pub now stands. Despite warnings, the people living there went about their business, totally unconcerned about the snow. Then whoosh, down it came, demolishing 7 cottages and taking the lives of 8 people. Time, gentlemen, please. Not heard now, but the admonishment of past landlords that it was time to quit drinking should have been heeded by the cottagers. A disaster both for the country and the town. A brief mention of one last hostelry, the John Harvey Tavern. Named after the founder of a local brewery, the one of 16 to survive to the modern day, Harvey's has been around since at least 1790. And an important inhabitant. Along with Mole and Ratty on the banks of the River Ouse. More on that later. For the moment, back to the bar. How I wish I'd lived in Lewes when it had 63 pubs. Bliss.
Well, I told you a lie there. I said that we were going to go up to the race
You might
course. In
think,
fact, I think
from the pubs I've been
second.
into, that Lewis is a drinking town.
Uh,
The town constable in the late 1800s didn't think so.
Right, there we go. We've stopped that little background noise. It was about the plague and the port that Lewis was and was affected by, and I have to say that documentary really found favour right throughout the country, and we like playing some of it again. But the bit that I thought we were going to play, and we will play again, is that if you read Graham Greene's Brighton Rock about the underworld in Brighton, is he describes a battle, a fictitious battle between gangs of thugs and the coppers and the bookmakers on Brighton Racecourse. But in fact, the real battle took place on Lewes Racecourse. And the local police given credit for breaking the is a Peaky Blinder gangs of the 1920s and the 1930s. And that, in fact, the great courage of the judiciary at Lewes Crown Court saw the end of them, because they actually brought down renter mobs to stand and shout abuse at the judges and at the prosecutors and at the witnesses outside the court. But the judge would not be intimidated, and the gang leaders were sent down for a long time. And that broke the power of these gangs. They no longer terrorized the racecourses, and actually, in many ways, they went out of existence altogether. So it's quite important that we actually take a look at that from time to time, and we will. We will indeed. All right, okay. Let's go back, because guess who has sauntered in for a moment or two? Oh, yes, here he is, the man himself, the Max. Good morning, Max.
Good morning.
Right. Now, how was the transport this morning?
Good. I got the train because, well, I'm not getting the train usually because it's so expensive, but I managed to get the off-peak hours, so it was only £8.
Oh, that was not too bad.
So it's still cheaper to get the bus, even with the off-peak tickets.
Yeah.
But I couldn't be bothered to do a 2-hour bus ride before
Yeah.
the gym because I'd be tired. So got the train in, and it was late as usual, but everything was all right.
You got here, but in fact, you're only passing through because you're in the middle of an exciting project, something that we're all going to see in the next few weeks. You want to tell us about that?
So I'm starting a gym show with me and Stephen. He works here at the White Hart Hotel occasionally. He does lots of little side projects, and he's helping me with the fitness show. He is a very, very fit guy, very healthy, goes to the gym every day, and he's my personal trainer now. And I'm filming with him, and it's going to be hopefully a 6-month show, and you're going to see the progression of me over the 6 months losing weight. So right now I'm quite big, quite heavy. I'm nearly 19 stone, which is a lot, far too much for someone my age. So over these next 6 months, you'll see me get a lot slimmer.
Right, and you're off to shoot an episode this morning.
Yes, do some extra filming for the pilot episode, because I thought I would have had enough filming, but I need a lot of filming per episode.
Yeah, I mean, just for the interest of viewers about how these things are done, we always use the measure in the past that you shoot 4 minutes to every minute that you think you will use in a program. So if you've got a 10-minute program, you would actually shoot 40 minutes.
Yeah.
But the BBC had a ratio of 14 minutes to 1.
Yeah.
So they shot huge amounts just for that 1 minute.
I did a video for my personal channel, but it was just a car video, and I filmed 2 hours. I did 2 hours of raw footage, and I only used about 9 minutes of it.
There you go.
And
Enough said.
I wasn't being frugal with it. I was only taking videos when I thought I needed to save battery life and storage. So even with 2 hours of filming, I still only used 9 minutes.
Now, yesterday, Max actually started a new program for Mirador, and actually Max is the youngster who actually takes on and challenges the views of the older people, and he and Stuart Dolby do Energy Matters on Wednesday. And although it deals with energy, quite often it also deals with the two viewpoints of Max and Stuart.
Two very opposing viewpoints.
Absolutely. They don't actually pummel one another with their fists, but they can get pretty hot under the collar with each other. And it's good to hear such diverse views about various things from the young and the old. They say from the salt and the pepper.
Here's the thing about the young and the old view. It's quite funny with me and Stuart, because I take the older person's view and Stuart takes the younger person's view. That just happens to be the way it is.
Well, there you are, topsy-turvy.
Yeah, Stuart is very liberal. I'm very conservative, so it just happens to be.
But yesterday morning, a new program came in, because now Max hosts it, but he has joining him as a co-host Liza Page. Liza is well, we're not going to tell a lady's age. That's not fair. But she is past 21. Let's put it that way. And she has some very, very fierce views on various things that are happening in our society. And she bounces off Max, and he bounces off her. And this was a pilot program yesterday, and it worked very well. So it's going to be a weekly effort between the two of them. But Liza also has her own video company and has made a good many very good documentaries, if you like, but mostly interview shows. And they are the first 2 or 3 to come out will be
Freddie Nolan.
Yes, is the last remaining members of the Holocaust. Which is suddenly beginning to hit the headlines again, particularly since there are a lot of people who not only would argue that it wasn't anywhere near as bad as everybody makes out, and some who it doesn't exist. Eh?
I said, who takes that view?
Well, lots of people do, and indeed, one of the controversies of this age is that there are people that say it never happened at all. Yeah. That challenges.
There's not many people. I think that's overblown by the media. I don't think I've never met anyone who believes that.
Well, just because you haven't met them doesn't mean to say they don't exist.
It's a very small subsection, even of the internet.
Yeah, I mean, there are people who have got followers, large groups of followers. I'm not talking about websites, but who argue and quite forcibly that the Holocaust was we made it up in the West to justify what we did with Germany towards the end of the war, which in its own way, a lot of people say were war crimes. The blanket bombing of Cologne. I think
war crimes tend to happen during a war.
Well, that's true.
One of the good things I like about doing the show with Liza is, like you, she can partially remember towards the end of World War II, and you remember what it was like, and she compares a lot of what's going on now to what was going on during World War II, and she has a lot of insight, having had so much life experience. It's very interesting to talk to someone like that.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, that corruption was rife when it came to trying to get meat from the butcher, because the butchers were as bent, if you like, would take money to make sure that those with plenty of money got the best cuts that were available. And I remember vaguely my parents talking about that at the time. And it was one of those things that, it just shows that, yes, the great British spirit during the war was there, but there was still profiteering. And the times were not as pure as they would appear to be. Right now, the other thing is that Liza is actually overseeing a program with an 80-year-old lady who came on here and started to talk to Melissa in New York, and he said to Melissa about sponge cakes, and they got on to baking. And she said, "I would love to do a food program on this station. I can make great sponge cakes." So they have found a kitchen in Ringmer, which is suitable to their needs, and who the owners are saying, yes, by all means, make this program here. But one of the funny things that comes out of conversations when you're developing these things is Eliza said, it's got some windows where my nephew can bring his horses, and they can be fed some cake. Ha ha ha! And I said, yes, do that, please, because do you know the tradition, the protocol for the horses that pull the Queen's landaus and bring ambassadors to present their credentials at Buck House at Buckingham Palace? And she said, no, I don't know that. And basically, the Queen sends a landau. I think it's 4 horses for an ambassador and 2 for a high commissioner, to take them to Buckingham Palace, where they present their credentials. It's a very nice ceremony. But when the horses get back to the point of origin, where the ambassador or the high commissioner is going to hold a little party and so on, it is expected that the people running that particular area establishment will feed the horses carrots. And the horses expect it, the Queen expects it, and everybody else expects it. So there's a little something that lots of people didn't know. So there we are. That's where we're at. Where are we at? We're at 9:53. Goodness gracious me, it was only 8:30 5 minutes ago. So we're really going great tilt, great rate of knots. And one of the things that I think I should actually be obliged to tell you that it is the 2nd of September, because quite often I wake up and I can't even remember whether it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, let alone the date. And if in fact a bill is due on the 2nd, I haven't a clue until I double check. So if you're lying in bed and you're watching this, it is the 2nd of September, and in the year 2022, in case you get the year wrong. Not an auspicious year. And it doesn't look from the headlines as if it's going to get any better. We are a world full of crises, and throughout the world, it's getting better. One of the things that I only saw very briefly on BBC's morning program this morning is they had some experts on who said that, in fact, both Russia and China economically were getting stronger, and that they were able to start to beat the West in terms of industrial clout. Is that true, or is it not? It is difficult to say, but certainly China particularly has become very industrial. The only thing is that it is said that it is in serious danger of overtrading, and that means that in fact it is selling more than it's producing. And when that happens, of course, you start to lose your markets and disaster ensues. But there we are. That's what was on the rivals this morning. Nowhere near as good as us, but nonetheless. But talking about being as good as us, one product that they did actually deliver was Bill Turnbull. In an age where the level and standard of broadcasting is very poor indeed, Bill Turnbull stood out as a first-class broadcaster. He understood what it was all about. He was excellent at presenting. He was excellent at reporting. He was excellent at doing features. And when he was on the ground, he knew how to treat the people who were about to appear on television in a proper and respectful manner, but still get them to giggle and have a good time. No, Bill Turnbull was one of the giants, and he's died at 66 from prostate cancer, and the industry and the world, for that matter, is the worse for his passing. So well done, Bill Turnbull, and RIP. Okie dokie dokie. Let's take a very brief thing with. Well, there you are. A little trip down to Grange Park. And it is actually sometimes called Grange Gardens and sometimes Grange Park. It was originally a garden to the manor there, which was described as the finest ever to be in Lewis, and built in the, let's see, the 1500s, no, the 1600s, after the dissolution of the monasteries. And some people called Newton tore off down to the site of the priory, which was really a very, very grand priory, and they nicked a lot of the stone and went back and built the manor house, and they had some vast gardens. But the park, as it is, it's a park, but it is now made from those gardens, and beautiful they were, and beautiful the gardens are. One of the parks that really is worthwhile visiting if you live in Lewis or if you're coming to Lewis. It's a beautiful place to go. It has in it a Knott's garden. What is a Knott's garden? Many people will say. It is a symmetrical garden, laid out a very planned way, and with lovely flowers there, but plant not allowed to grow higgledy-piggledy, but in the squares that make up this garden. And in this particular case, this Knott's garden is a walled garden, and I sometimes use it in a very hot summer, and I didn't this year because I was stuck with him in here. I use it for my office. And I would go down there, and I was undisturbed. The only thing is that on a lovely day in the Knott's garden, because there are beautiful flowers around, the bees would buzz and the birds would sing, and eventually, so as an office, it was a failure. As a place to get away and enjoy calm and peace and beautiful flowers and the birds and the bees, it was first class and is first class.
I had a similar thing. I would do some of my college work on the beach because my college was maybe 200 meters from the beach. So from here to the bottom of School Hill, very close. So I would just walk down to the beach. We would have our lunch at the beach, break. We didn't really have time, but lunch at the beach, and then after school and work.
And you didn't do much studying, did you? No. No. And that really is very indicative of working from home. Yeah. You know, some people have been fastidious and can actually do that, but is domestic issues get in the way. I try to work on a Saturday when I have to do some domestic issues, and I keep on being interrupted. So my work pattern on a Saturday is a dismal failure. I try hard. I have a conscience when I don't complete things, but I cannot do it. And all this working from home is a myth. And that's partly the reason that we actually do not get immediate response. We are left hanging for 3 or 4 hours on a phone call. So working from home, a complete disaster. But I know somebody who actually does work from home and is very good at it. Good morning, Melissa.
Good morning. Good being back. How are you guys?
How are you? What, do that? Yes, right. Do that. There we go.
Hello.
Whoa. There we go. You can see Uncle Max as well.
I'll probably be leaving in like 5 minutes. I only got here like 10 minutes ago. I've got to go off to do some filming. I just thought I'd pop by and say hi.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it. It's good to see you. How's it going this week?
Yeah, it's going good. Going good. We've done some shows already. Got another show with Sarah Fitch Hayes done, and that should be coming out either Friday or Monday.
About your cakes, the cakes you sent her.
Yes.
They centered in our conversation, and then she got on to other foods that she loves in America. So there, you see, you're the cause of some of the content in our art show.
Wonderful. That sounds great. I want to put some art in my kitchen. So when I come to the UK, I have to have a big empty suitcase.
Right, absolutely. But also, if she comes to New York, she wants to paint. She wants to paint Connor's replica beer of Harvey's. Because she's painted Coke bottles. And I said, why haven't you painted a Harvey's beer bottle? Oh, what a wonderful idea, she said. And then we got on to talking about Connor trying to replicate Harvey's beer. And she thought that it would be a good idea to paint his stuff as well. So we've got lots in the works.
Oh, great. Now I get to be a bottle labeler too. Yeah.
Do you design the labels?
I don't do anything but clean up, really.
Yes, well, there's a bit of cleaning up to do over his experimenting stage, I understand.
Yeah, he's ruined all my dining chairs. I mean, it's just like having another pet,
Anyway, we've entered the autumn, if you like, the fall of 2022. Yesterday was the 1st of September, with 2 or 3 new programs. Max hosted Liza Page. Liza has made a lot of documentaries over the years, and actually is ex-Hollywood, way back. And one has to be careful when discussing a lady's age, but way back, she actually had her own talk show in Hollywood many years ago. And you know how tough that can be.
Oh, yeah.
But over the years, she's managed to interview some very interesting people, 2 of which have now passed away, but she caught them just in time, and they were the final people left from the Holocaust, held in concentration camps.
There are now no more people who went through the Holocaust alive today. She interviewed the last 2 survivors.
Wow.
And we will be showing those at some stage in the not too distant future.
Hopefully, I was hoping for this afternoon, but it's not looking possible. Very busy today, but hopefully Monday or it's definitely next week. 100%.
We shall get started with that.
Yes.
And I have to say, Melissa, you and Suzanne wasn't available this week, but you and Suzanne bring in this wonderful international view. And strangely enough, the critics of television and where it's going are starting to say that local television is probably the thing of the future, as long as it actually pays attention to sort of affairs outside its own backyard. And of course, that's what we're doing. So we are really very grateful to you and Suzanne getting out of bed at an ungodly hour in New York and coming on and chatting to us.
No problem. I'm usually up at 4 a.m.
Well, there we go. Right.
Same.
Yeah.
Don't be calling me at 4 a.m. though.
Yeah, no, I think it's probably because you want to make a phone call to somebody else, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. I've known her since 1990, so I know all about her love life. Secrets of the television sector. Now, let's get serious for a moment, because before I forget, I watched this morning, just before I left for work, a little bit of Joe Biden's speech about basically the enemy within, and that we've got to pay as much attention to the threats internally to our democratic process, as well as the threats externally. Have you heard that speech, Melissa?
No, I'm afraid I haven't, but I did read about it.
Right.
I try. I'm going to be very honest with you. I try not to watch too much television because I like to get my news when I feel like reading it, not when a newscaster feels like broadcasting it.
Yes. Well,
So
that's the
no,
beauty of
I
our
didn't. I
television.
didn't listen to it because I like to read.
So
But
you know what he
I
said.
guess I read about it very briefly. I mean, I guess he has some points, but you know, he's got to look in his own backyard too. Um, I guess there's some things he's done recently I'm not too pleased with, but
Well, you can tell us about those in a minute, because we do need to know. Yes. Remain calm. Remain calm. No, let it go. I've been letting it go all week. I've been ranting and raving and giving everybody a bad time. So you can do the same. But one of the things that I have been, along with others on Mirador, quite critical of Joe Biden. But one of the things that did strike me, watching his performance this morning, is that he was quite statesmanlike. It was a good speech in terms of delivery, and how he made his various points. And that bit actually did impress me.
I mean, I guess he can pull out that ability every once in a while. I just think some of his policies are misguided. So
Well,
I think he's thinking it through. And well, I mean, I that politicians do that all the time. I mean, you're dealing with a heap of problems on your side of the pond, certainly.
oh wow, are we ever?
We find out
And
on
I,
Monday. We find out on Monday who our next prime minister is.
well, it's going to be Liz, right?
It is going to be Liz. Yeah, everyone knows it already, but it's official on Monday.
Yeah, let's not count our chickens. As they say, a week is a long time in politics. And although we haven't heard much from Rishi, once again there was a clip on television with him giving a speech to his faithful this morning. And remember that it's not us that he's trying to impress. What he's trying to do is to impress the MPs and the members of the Conservative Party. They're the people that are going to vote. And who knows what's going on in little enclaves up and down the country when they're discussing who is going to help them. And there's only one thing that will worry them, is who will help them win the next election? Who will help them keep their candidate, keep his seat or her seat? That might be telling. So let's be prepared for a shock, because we've had a few.
I mean,
Right.
I'll be honest with you. I think she's trying to be Margaret Thatcher with this iron hand. I don't know that that's going to be very effective, especially as you guys head into a recession. She doesn't seem very concerned with the common man, and I think that's going to run against her.
But neither does
So I
billionaire
think she's
Rishi
just got to
Sunak.
be very careful to try to be. I mean, she doesn't have to give away the farm, certainly, but I think she has to at least come across as understanding and not so harsh. She's got a very, I mean, if she does make it, she's got a very tough road ahead of her. You know,
Yeah.
seriously.
Well, of course, you know what I say is that both of them are lightweights. And actually, one of the headlines in the newspapers this morning is that a top lawyer is set to have a real go at the privilege committee that took Boris on in the first place. And it says that they actually, oh, there's Sally. Good morning, Sally. The privilege committee and is on a witch hunt, and that in fact they are helping to destroy democracy with their one single-minded get Boris, rather than looking at what's happening in the country. So
Well,
I think there is going to be a hell of a lot going on in the next
didn't they
little
get him
while.
already? Didn't they get him already? What's the next thing?
Yeah, right.
There you go.
Exactly.
Okay, done. Now what do you have?
Exactly.
What are you going to get next?
And both candidates have been guilty of starting off with basic premises only to change them as they realize whether they're popular or not. and anybody who sways with the breeze of popularity isn't necessarily a good leader, a strong leader.
No, not at all. You have to have conviction for something. I mean, Boris had conviction, certainly.
Yes, yeah, that's right. I mean, one of the things, I'm not sure whether we discussed this last week, Melissa, but one of the things that has come out is that a poll amongst voters, particularly conservative voters, is that if Boris was on the ballot, that he would draw votes for him to become leader again, 2-1 against the other candidates combined.
Yeah, and I mean, the other candidates are not very inspiring. They're not.
Not at all.
You know, and
Not
I'm
at
here
all.
in New York, you know, not inspiring me at all.
I have a question for you, Melissa.
Yes.
In the next, out of the people who are running for the Democratic Party for the next presidential election, obviously there's no official.
I don't know
people
who they are. I'm going to be
There's
very
no-
honest with you. There's nothing that's actually clear right now.
No, there's no official people running yet, I don't think.
No.
But who would you say is an inspiring person to run? Because I can't think of any myself.
Well, I mean, if he runs again, I think he's going to lose. I just think he's not been inspiring at all. He's just kind of been bumbling, and I've said this before on Mirador. You know, the mansion's burning, and he's out watering the flowers.
If he runs for a second term, he'll be what, 87 when he leaves
Yeah,
office?
I think that's just out of the question. They got to run somebody younger. That's just the way it is. I mean, he's just not going to win. They're not going to win, guys. So if you're listening, you know, head of the Democratic Party, don't do it.
Because I think Trump is rerunning. He hasn't officially announced it, but he's definitely hinted
How
towards.
old is he going to be? I mean, enough already with the geriatric
Yeah.
crowd. You know, my apologies to all the elderly out there. You're all wonderful and you have a lot of wisdom, but it takes a lot of stamina and
Yeah.
and some sense. Some sense. Give me a break. Neither of them have any sense. I'm sorry. They're just like, why are you stealing classified documents? Leave them in the White House. Leave them there. What do you have to hide? That's what it looks like. And I'm interested to know. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
But going back to Max's question, is there any bright light in American politics beginning to shine through? Because actually,
No.
the next election isn't that far away.
It's 2 years.
No, it's not. Really not. I don't see any bright lights. I mean, DeSantis in Florida is trying to. Florida, good Lord. Yeah, beach and babes. I mean, that's it. That's all you got. I mean, come on. I don't know. Florida and their education system, please. I taught in that education system for 5 years, and I'd hardly call it an education system. It was a joke.
Yeah.
That's why I took my son
I
out
know.
of there, by the way, Florida. You stink. Anyway.
Yes. Of course, actually, you spent some time in Florida when we were
Almost
doing
20 years in
nightly
Florida.
morning and nightly business report, did you not?
Correct. That was almost 20 years in Florida.
Yeah, there you go.
And people always ask me, why did you leave? I don't know. My roof was destroyed twice in 2 hurricanes. I don't feel like having a possible monster just demolish my house every 6 possibility of that every 6 months.
Yeah,
You know,
but
and
our good friend,
I'm not interested in lizards and alligators and snakes and big, huge roaches. I'm just not interested. I'm sorry.
but our good friend and colleague, Mark Landsman, seems to be very happy down there. And
Yeah,
just for
because,
British
you know,
viewers, Mark Landsman is a giant in American journalism. But he loves it, apparently.
yeah, I mean, I guess he loves it because I mean, what are you gonna do there? What do you do there? You play golf and go to the beach. Next.
Also, isn't Florida like the per capita the oldest people in Florida, like population wise? It's a lot of retired.
It's a retirement. So listen, it's a retirement community. Okay, what do retirees want to do? Nothing. Nothing. Okay, they don't want to do anything.
Oh, you are cruel.
But then
Oh,
you
you are
also
really
so you
cruel.
have. In fact, I was talking to a friend of mine who's actually a teacher down there, and she says that the traffic, the roads are like parking lots. They have no mass transit whatsoever. There's nothing. Everybody gets in their little cars and just, you know, piles onto the highways. And they sit there They just sit there. It's becoming not unlivable. But getting back to the whole thing with retirement, that's what you do down there. There's no culture. Who are you gonna talk to that has a brain going on? I didn't find any. Oh, maybe one person. Okay. I hope the
Yeah.
rest of my friends down there aren't listening. But seriously,
Just as a matter of
it's not.
interest.
It's just not a high
Yeah.
intellectual, cultural center. It's not. There's no
Just
one
as
in
a matter
Florida
of
that even
interest,
typing.
Melissa, why was it the base for morning and nightly business report?
Because Linda decided to start Nightly Business Report. But
And
that
she,
doesn't mean that anybody behind the scenes was intellectual.
no,
Paul
no,
Kangas.
but I mean, did she live there? Is that why it was cited there?
Yeah, she
Ah.
lived there, and that public television station decided that they would do it.
Well, let's face it, the giant of the future is based in Lewis.
Yes. Oh, that's right. Yes.
and actually, to
That's
some
Max,
extent,
right? Max.
your description
Right?
of Florida could be the description of Lewis.
No. Lewis
Lewis
has
is very old.
history and culture. It's just different. You have to go
Okay.
to Florida to experience it. Seriously. So it's
Now,
either newcomers coming in who don't know any better. Okay, you've got new immigrants coming in. They're just so happy to sit in a classroom. I mean, seriously,
yeah.
They don't even have an income tax to pay for the schools. So if you really want a good school, you got to send your kid to a private school, $30,000-$40,000 a year. What was the whole point of moving down there to save on taxes?
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
I'm sorry. It's just not a place where somebody from the north would go down to educate their children. It just would not happen.
Now, I'd like to turn, because you made a comment earlier when I asked about Biden, and you said there are 2 or 3 things that he's legislated or has taken a position behind that have upset you. Can you just go through briefly those for us? Break the calm. Break the calm. Let us know
Okay.
what's upsetting you.
All right. So during the election, one of the big issues here in the States is student loan debt. Kids coming out of school are just absolutely soaked in it. We're talking 100,000, 200,000, 300,000. You got to be kidding me. Why would you give an 18-year-old with no job a $200,000 loan? What is the matter with this country? I don't understand. And then the government backed it. So these kids cannot get out of the debt. They can't get out of it through bankruptcy. Why'd you get into it in the first place? Why are you enabling these universities to charge you $200,000 for an undergraduate degree? Are you serious? Come on.
Yeah.
Let's be smart here. And honestly, a lot of these kids made that decision when they were 17. They were not, age of majority. Well, they were, but they were not legally adults. What were the parents? Where were the parents? Yeah, sure, little Johnny, take out $200,000. Okay, fine, done. Now they come out, they're in trouble. During the election, Joe Biden promised them some debt relief, and he came out with legislation, $10,000 or $20,000 if you're very poor and you went into crazy debt. And then there are all sorts of stipulations. If you have income of less than $125,000, then okay, we'll give you some debt relief. So you're going to go into the coffers that I pay into to pay people $10,000. I already paid for my son's education. I worked my tail off to save $1,000 a month so my son can go to college debt free. Do I get a rebate? No. What about the kids who already paid off their loans? Did they get a rebate? No. Are you kidding me? Why would you encourage more borrowing? Oh, let's go out and borrow more because Joe Biden's going to bail us out. What?
Yeah.
Stop.
Can I just say something about the student debt?
Go ahead.
The student debt relief really got on my nerves as well, because the highest earners in society are university and college educated people. And why should the poorer people in society pay for the people with higher wages? It doesn't make sense. The highest earners in society are
the thing is, we're also paying for the poor. We're paying for the poor that went into debt too. It's not a good habit. Okay. I'm going for my master's degree at City University. I'm paying as I go. Okay. It's City University. It's not that expensive. If you can't afford an expensive university of $120,000 or $200,000, then don't go. Then
And if
don't go. It's like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna buy a Bentley when you're making $20,000 a year? No, because you can't afford it. It's the same thing with college. You go and get your associate's degree at a community college, very cheap, and in some cases free. And then you go for your bachelor's degree at a city university or a state university and you save some money and you get grants. That's how you do it. You work, right? You pay as you go. You don't have to get into debt. If you don't have the money, that's the route you go. Sorry.
also, um, if you can't pay off your degree, then clearly your degree wasn't worth it. If you have to get government funding, if you can't make enough to pay off your degree just wasn't worth it.
I think it also encourages these universities to keep raising the cost of education. They're having a party on the back of the government because they're government-backed loans. They're having a party. Oh, let's build a swimming pool. Oh, let's have a luxury gym. What? What? Please stop.
It also encourages employers to demand a degree for their employees, even if the job is only sweeping up.
Right. I mean, there are a lot of jobs that in my own company, why would you need a degree to keep an Outlook calendar or to make copies or to maybe work an Excel spreadsheet? Well, come on. I'm an old person and I could figure that out. You don't need a degree for that. Do you think that I went and studied that? No, I didn't study any of that stuff. Anything I learned in college, I am not using.
Yeah.
Not using at all.
Is there any overall statistics to show what the average salary is for a college leaver in the United States?
I don't have the statistics in front of me, but I would imagine, like in New York City, for example, maybe they'll start at $50,000-$60,000 in New York City, which
Wow.
you can't even live.
Right, but with
You know, at
$200,000
least $2,000 a month.
That sounded really good in my head, but then I realized, oh wait, it's in New York City.
It's New York City. Yeah, you're gonna start with a little closet, $2,000 a month.
Yeah, and if you don't actually go up the ladder, that's where you
when
stay.
you take out the taxes, right? You're not gonna have anything to live on. I mean, come on, it's a joke.
Right. Now, I rather think there is another one, keep calm, but there is another issue circling inside you. So let's just take a breath by going down to our Potter's Wheel, the park at Grange, which you will in December see firsthand. Okay, here we are back with Melissa Conte, who is getting up at the ungodly hour of 4 a.m. in New York, just to join us here in Lewis, where it is 10:25, and it's the second day of September, and in the year 2022, perhaps a year that most of us would prefer to forget. Outside, it is going to reach the heady heights of 24 centigrade, and with a few patchy clouds. But the worst thing at all is a moderate breeze, and those moderate breezes are known to catch a hat like mine, send it barreling down the street with me chasing it and then some young lady of 24 or 25 who is gorgeous and wonderful puts her fat foot on it and brings it back and gives it to me, and then looks at me as if this poor old man couldn't even chase his own hat. So watch out for the breeze. Right.
So 24 degrees is 75 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's the weather today.
Right.
That's nice. It's about
Too hot.
it's about 68 here. It'll get up to the 70s Fahrenheit. So I'm glad it's cooling off. It's been so hot. It's been in the 90s. I'm tired of it. Yeah.
Is there anywhere in the United States that is cool in the summer?
Maybe up in Maine, Minnesota, Michigan.
Yeah.
Maybe up in Oregon.
One of my favorite states, Maine, and it seems to me that Maine did produce one of the more sensible politicians in the past, Edmund Muskie. Am I correct?
I guess if you want to call, a politician sensible, sure.
Well, I know it's a relative term, but he always impressed me rather more than the rest, particularly in a volatile era when Nixon was pouncing around and so on.
Right. Yeah, that was fun.
Right.
I'm glad I was a child then.
Okay. Keep calm and don't lose your cool. Yes, right. We know that you're going to keep calm and not lose your cool, and yes, you are. So what was the other important point that has bothered you about Biden's administration?
I was trying to remember that. Maybe I haven't had enough coffee, but I don't know what else he did this week that pissed me off.
What has he done generally that has upset you?
Well, let's get to business news, because that's kind of where we came from. It struck me. I guess it was last week. When you have all these.
What struck you? Sorry.
What struck me last week? It was last week. So, the chairman of our Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, was out in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, at this very rich conference that they have every year. And lots of rich folks, gathering together. And they're sitting there deciding the fate of all of the middle class and poor people in this country. I mean, it just made me sick to my stomach. I'm like, guys, it just looked so bad,
But that's the way it is, isn't it? I mean, it's like Davos, the World Economic Forum. All the great and the good telling us what we should do.
I'm just sitting there like, oh my God.
Yeah. Okay. Show your keep calm, and then don't. Let's have a rant about that. Because it is the great and the good and the rich and the wealthy that always know what is best for us. But actually, what it is it's what's best for them persuading us to do it.
Well, we'll start with Jerome Powell, for example. I mean, he's having to raise interest rates relatively quickly because he screwed up before. Okay, he kowtowed to Trump and Trump's calls for low interest rates, to the point where it's almost zero. Let's encourage more borrowing. Yeah, brilliant idea to juice the economy artificially. And now what do we have? We have people soaked in debt. Oh, wonderful. Great job. Thanks, guys. No, because not only do you encourage more borrowing, you screw the seniors who are saving, you screw the pensions, right? Because now they got to get into riskier investments to get any yield at all. What do they have? A savings account? What'd you get in a savings account? 0.01%? And what are you charging on a credit card? 14 to 26%? Are you kidding?
Oh, you're lucky if you get 14 to 26. It's more like 26 to 32.
What?
Well, that's what they call the subprime. So the people who are in financial trouble, let's make their troubles even worse by charging them even higher interest rates.
Yes.
It's higher than the mafia. The mafia used to charge 25%. Oh, yeah. I wasn't supposed to talk about that because there's no such thing as a mafia. Whatever.
Well,
no.
Stuart was bragging the other day. I don't know how true this is, but he said it's true. He was bragging that he has a 0% interest rate on his credit card.
Who?
Well, yes. So this is this. What he's doing is the credit card companies hook you by offering
Called an
0%
introductory teaser rate.
everything to that particular credit card. Yeah,
Let me explain something to you and the world, okay? The banks know you better than you know you, okay?
absolutely.
They have whole marketing teams out there to figure out your behavior and get you hooked on their credit, okay? When you say a credit card, they should label it a debt card. People don't look at credit cards as debt. When you go out and buy a cup of coffee with your stupid credit card, you are going into debt to buy a cup of coffee. Why would you do that? Oh, because I want to improve my FICO score. Your FICO score, that just keeps you in debt. It just
Yeah,
keeps
I
you in
know.
debt. Are you that stupid? Buy what you can with the money you have. That's it. That's it. So you may have to sacrifice. Oh, boo-hoo. Okay? We all have to sacrifice to get to our goals. That's the way it is. Okay? You may have to do some drastic things. I did some drastic things. People laughed at me. I don't care. I'm okay now. I don't do debt anymore. I was soaked in debt. I was an idiot. I was the bank's idiot. Okay? I'm done. I was like, I can't take this anymore. I got to the point where I couldn't breathe. Like I had this debt and that debt. And that. I was like, what are you doing? What are you going to buy your way into wealthy? That's not how it works. That's not the wealth mindset. You think a wealthy person's going to go out and get a car loan? Seriously. Now I'm going to buy a Lexus and get a loan. What are you, stupid? You think that's going to make you look wealthy? No, it just makes you look stupid. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. You save and invest your income. You do not give your income away to the banks. There you go. Done. That's the solution. You don't have to be poor. You don't. You think like a rich person thinks. There's no mystery out there. There's no mystery. You got Google. You can figure it out. Okay? But it's not borrowing money. It isn't. Anyway, I've had my say.
Yeah, that's great. That's great because I totally agree with you. I don't. I mean, I've got credit card debt, historical, but I don't use credit cards and haven't for the last 5 years, I suppose. And
They're
I still
snakes.
get
I'm
the
telling you,
same letters from the banks, from the
they're
credit
like
card companies.
snakes. The banks are snakes, and you can sit there and oh well, I pay my credit card off every month. No, yeah, but they're gonna catch you at one point. Think about it. You go
Yeah,
out to dinner with your friends, right? You either go out with cash, and so you have a set amount that you're gonna buy or that you're gonna eat, all right? Or you have a credit card, right? Hey, I got a credit card. Hey, the next round's on me. You just went into debt because you're an
good
idiot.
morning. Well,
Why'd you do that?
yeah,
It
uh, uh,
encourages you to spend more and then get yourself in trouble at the end of the month.
yes, but it's
I
also
know. I was
Melissa,
there. I know. I was the
yeah,
idiot too.
the mindset of the banks too, because I got into a dispute 2 or 3 years ago where I lost some money out of my account through fraud, and they tried to pin the blame on PayPal. But in negotiations, I said to a lady about that they'd guarantee that they look after my money, and she said, "Oh, it's the bank's money. I have to protect the bank's money." And I kept on saying, "No, it's my money. No, it's the bank's money." They actually take it off you and then consider it to be theirs.
Uh,
Absolutely
I'm
outrageous.
going to be honest. I got rid of online shopping. Not doing it anymore. Because here's what you have to do. You have to discipline yourself. Personal finance is 90% personal, 10% finance. It's the person in the mirror you have to control. I know. I was out of control. Put me in a nice store with some pretty clothes, I'm out of control. Okay. You've got to put friction between you and your money. Online shopping, there's no friction. No friction. Yeah, I'll buy this, I'll buy that, I'll buy that, I'll buy that. But and then in the process, you're giving your information to a vendor who's selling it to a third party. That's why you get in trouble. That's why your email gets on the dark web. Yeah, mine was there. I had to get rid of my email. So you have to have friction. Cash is the perfect cash is perfect.
Yes, I
Perfect.
talk about that a lot actually. I exclusively use cash. What I do
You
is
know why? You got friction, okay, because once the cash is gone, there's no more to do, right? You got to be careful as you go. And nobody knows you, right? They don't have your credit card number, they don't have your address, your phone number, your whole life, a pint of blood. They don't have anything on you. Okay?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
My system is, what I do is I take £50 at the beginning of the week on a Monday. That pays £30 for my weekly ticket for the bus, and then £20 for the days I'm at work for lunch and drinks. And then usually, if I have money at the end of the week, I probably have about £10 left over. On the weekend, I can buy myself a case of beers or something.
There you go. There you go.
That's my system.
You're thinking in terms of budgeting, which is so important. People don't do budgets. Why not?
Yeah.
You don't tell your money where to go, so now you don't know where it's going.
Yeah, I've already
There you
got a
go.
savings account, and no one my age does. I'm saving as much money as
I'm
possible.
telling you, this is what you do. You save and invest your money slowly over time,
Yeah.
and you will be wealthy. You will.
Yeah.
It's a guarantee.
No. You two have got it wrong. What I do is I buy 60 lottery tickets a week.
I said this to you yesterday, actually, that I heard this good quote. The lottery is just a tax for stupid people.
Oh boy. God, Max said it. I didn't say it, but there's truth to that.
Right. Let's just remind everybody who they're listening to and watching, because this is the wonderful feisty debate, which we've had 5 days this week, and Melissa most certainly isn't letting us down. But let's just say this is who we are. There you are. Lots of music, lots of fun on Mirador, but also lots of feisty debate.
I just need
Right.
to warn you, my cat's here, and I haven't fed him yet.
Oh,
So
bring
he
her
might
into
come
the...
around and start talking a little bit.
That's great.
How many pets do you have?
Yo, 20 more minutes, okay? Don't give me a problem.
How many pets do you
Little
have?
baby. Little baby.
Max says, how many cats do you have?
I just have one. One
I've,
old
I've-
cat. His name is Darth Vader, and he's got asthma and IBS, and takes
Well, his
medicine every day.
little tail is going like fury there. Is that the tail? Yes, look at that. That's terrific. That's terrific. Now, I have to tell you that Jane has just come into the bar. And before she goes, she's got to come and say good morning. Come on, come and say your good morning, Jane. Yeah, every morning she comes and says good morning. And this is what I'm greeted with when I get in the morning. This beautiful lady with a beautiful smile who looks after me and is full of beams and action. Yeah, this is a great place to come to work. I'll tell you, it really is a great place. Now, Melissa, one of the great things about having you and Suzanne on is we get to learn a little bit more about American life. One of the big mistakes that everybody makes is everybody thinks they know how Americans live, and all the Americans think they know how Brits live. But in fact, of course, they're
I know how Brits live.
Well, now you do because you've been here several times. And not only that, you're in love with one, which helps enormously. But tell us what you've done this past week, just as an American in New York, and having day-to-day activities.
Well, let's see. I did my laundry. I vacuumed my apartment. I worked from home for 2 days, and then I went into the city and worked there. I'm gonna go in today. I read. I breathe.
Okay,
I don't
now,
know. I don't do anything that's like Americans just do what you guys do. We just live.
well, yes,
We go to
but
work, we come home, we
yeah,
eat.
but do
Some of
they
us eat too
now?
much.
How
That's
many
me.
stories is your apartment block?
It's only 6 stories,
Right, so
and
it's quite
it
small.
was built before World War II, so it's a pre-war building, and they just put in an expensive gym instead of repairing the walls. But that's okay, whatever. Uh,
Yeah,
that's a
but you
story for
see,
another day.
yeah, to me, okay, I've lived in North America for a certain amount of time, but to me, nobody lives in a 6-story building in the United States. You all live in 34, 40-story towers.
Well, okay, so let's just to give you a little perspective, like the state of New York, is that like this? Is that like as big as your country, sort of something like that? So it's a very, very vast country. It's even I think it's amazing, and I've lived here all my life. But
Okay,
say so New York State, for example, we
bye,
think of New
Max.
York State as New York City, right, with the big buildings. That's a very small portion in the very south tip of New York. New York State is filled with mountains and lakes and streams and farms. It's most of the state is it's not big buildings. I mean, it's not, you know.
All
So
right, I'm
yeah.
heading off now. Sorry.
Anyway, you're gonna
Okay,
get
where you
going,
go?
Max.
I'm going off to
Talk
do
to you
some
later.
shopping
Have a
now.
good week.
Will do.
Now, where would you do your washing, your laundry?
They have big, huge washers and dryers in the basement, so I go down there and I do it there.
Right.
Most
Uh,
apartments, they will have a washer dryer in the apartment. But because this is a pre-war building, right? Think about it, the plumbing, the electric, it wouldn't sustain having a washer dryer in the apartment. You'd probably, bust a pipe somewhere, that was built in before World War II. And then the
right.
electrical, good Lord, God knows what's going on in there. So yeah, the older buildings, it's hard to maintain. But really, honestly, this building in my area is very rare. Most of the buildings are much newer than that. So
But you like living in an older building, do you?
I think it has charm. It has the charm that the newer buildings just don't have. The newer buildings are
Agreed.
just square blocks. That's it. Or rectangular blocks. That's it. There's no charm. There's no, little, you know, little extra
Yeah.
design elements to it. So it does have a charm, but at the same time, you have to repair it. You have to keep replacing things. So
Uh, do you know other people in the block? Do you have neighbors that you talk to? And
yeah, I mean, they're all very nice people. There's a lot of older people here. Um, I live in a neighborhood that's sort of like, it's not like Lewis. I guess I could compare it to like London, like compared to Guildford,
right.
right? So it's more like Guildford,
Uh-huh.
you know.
Yeah.
I know a little bit about Guildford, and
Oh, you've been there
so
enough
it's a
times now.
suburb of New York City. It's about a 20, maybe a 30, well, maybe a 20-minute car ride with no traffic from New York City, or maybe a 35-minute train ride from Grand
Right.
Central Station in New York, which is the train I take. It's
Right.
very convenient. So I walk
Now,
down to the train station, hop on the train, and then I head down directly. There's an express right to New York City.
okay. Now, when you park your car, how much does it cost you to park?
I don't. The parking is free in the building.
But what about the station?
Oh, I just take a train. I would never drive to the city. I just would
Ah,
never drive to the city.
how
It's
do you get to the
mayhem.
station?
I don't drive to the station. I walk to the
No, but how
station.
do you get to the station?
I just walk along the main road and
Right,
then down the hill because Terrytown is up on a sort of up on a cliff, and then down the hill is where the Hudson River is and where the train tracks are, right by the Hudson River. So it's a very beautiful train ride into work.
right. But one of the key issues here about driving is that it almost costs more to park than it does to actually buy the damn car. And the other thing is, of course, if you want to drive into London, there's what's called an exclusion zone. So if you go over that line, automatically you are charged an extra fee. So
Right.
actually, driving is becoming a very expensive nightmare.
Right. To me, it's, I don't know, the train is just so pleasant and it's just so much easier. Um, Driving, I guess if you would go park in the city, maybe $30 a day or more,
Wow,
depending on where
yeah,
you're
that's
parking.
yeah. There's no
So
exclusion zone. You don't get charged for driving into the city.
no, I can't. I actually did drive into the city maybe, well, last month we went to see the USS Intrepid Museum, which is a big aircraft carrier that's right off the in the harbor, like, well, right out along the river, Hudson River, attached to
Right,
the city. And but that was on a Sunday. But
right.
still, it was very expensive. It's ridiculous. But I hadn't
Well,
driven in the city in a long time, so
right. Let's go back to the trains then. What sort of fee do you pay? What sort of ticket do you pay to get into New York from where you are? What do you say, about a 15 or 20-minute ride?
it's about 35 minutes by
Right.
train.
Yeah.
And so if you buy a monthly pass, it's $300. If you just do it by the day, it's about, round trip during peak hour, it's about 25 to $30.
Right. Yeah. About the same as us, actually,
Yep.
when you
Yep.
converted it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
noticed that the prices were on par with London, Guildford, they're very similar. But you know
Yeah.
what? You know what they're predicting, Keith? And I know this is painful for you, but they're predicting very close to parity between the dollar and the pound by the end of the year.
I'm not a bit surprised. I mean, the pound is taking a pounding, if I can put it that way, right
Yeah.
now. I mean,
Yes.
it's gone from about 1.4 to 1.2 at the moment, and falling.
Yeah. So I'm going to be buying a lot of pounds.
Now you're playing the trade exchange game.
Yes.
The
Well,
forex
it's
game.
I'm not just doing it just for financial. I'm doing it because I'm going to need some spending money in December.
Right. Yes. Tell me this now. I'm being serious for a moment because, and I'm not prying into your personal life, but there are things which a lot of people don't realise that our various governments do. Now, you went to a cocktail party at my club, or a former club, but I expect to be back there in not too distant future, and it is a very exclusive club. And amongst the membership there is a former BBC executive who is married to a very delightful black lawyer who practices in New York. He spends 6 months in New York. She spends 6 months here because the authorities say that if you get married, we will not guarantee to allow you to necessarily emigrate and come and live in one or the other of the countries. Now, have you, in your former future plans, thinking about that, is that the sort of thing that you've hit?
Is that the sort of thing that I've hit?
Yes, it's sort of a difficulty of actually marrying somebody from another culture.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I haven't thought about it today.
All
So
right, not today.
it's just a little early, but
You start thinking about it, darling. To be in love the way that you are, is you've got to start thinking about those things. Remain calm. But it has seemed to me that because I've traveled the world, is since Val died in 2013. I mean, I have to say that I haven't pursued very hard any sort of female companion, but on the odd occasion that it has arisen, people say, "Ah, well, this is all very well." And in fact, as I said, I know of this particular case where they are very wealthy people. They are at the top of their game, but the rules in America and the rules in Britain almost stop them from getting married. They have to do this 6-month about face, which is all you're allowed to come into the country for any length of time without actually applying for residency. So, our governments are not at all romantic. Not at all, at all, at all.
No, they're not. But hey, listen, it's a process, and they'll get through it. And she'll eventually have her British passport. Hopefully, he'll have his U.S. passport, and they'll be happy. It's just going to take
I'm sure
some
they'll be
time.
happy. I think they're happy now, but
well, there you go. So they're happy now, and then eventually they'll be even happier. There you go.
absolutely, absolutely.
That'll be my advice to them. Patience.
Right. Okay.
And in the
Well,
meantime,
next
enjoy
time you're
yourself.
at a cocktail party, when we're at a cocktail party together at the Travellers, I'll point them out to you, and you can have a chat, and you can say, "Now, listen, you stay happy."
I'm looking forward to seeing my friends at the club.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Your new friends at the club.
I have a friend who was I think he's a former journalist. I don't know whether he's still a journalist, but it'll be nice to see him again.
Yes. Who is that?
I don't know if I'm allowed to say.
Oh, okay. Don't. Err on the side of caution.
Oh, he's a lovely, lovely gentleman. He's just a lovely gentleman.
Yeah, well, they mostly are at that club, despite the
And
fact
then there was
that
another nice, very, very nice gentleman who I know very well.
yes,
He's
of
very
course.
nice too.
Yeah, the really, I mean, once again, is interesting as a social aspect of things. Is people talk about those clubs as being elitist, and almost as if people plot the downfall of the poor and so on, which is not at all true, of course.
No, I mean,
But,
it didn't seem to me that all of them were extremely wealthy.
no, they're not extremely wealthy, but they're doing all right. I mean, to pay the fees, you have to be doing all right.
Well,
But,
I mean, maybe see, everybody has a priority, right? So being a part of the club is their priority, so they'll pay the fees. Maybe somebody else really loves cars, so they'll pay for an expensive car because that's their priority.
That's right.
So yeah.
But now, I don't know. Well, when I first joined the club, and I was a member for 20 years or so, in my early days, the lady who looked after the cocktail bar was called Josie, and it was known as Josie's Bar. And occasionally, if I got there early enough, I could have a chat to Josie. And she said to me one day, she said, "Mr. Hayes, I come in from Southend on the train, and I hear vile talk and swearing and abuse and all sorts of silly nonsense, which makes me think is life worth living." And she said, "I come in through the doors of this club, and I enter a world of courtesy, patience, kindness, civility." And she said, "I spend 8 hours here, and then I have to go through those doors out into the world that I despise." Now, she was just a cocktail waitress. Well, she's a bit more than that, but nonetheless, she was, if you like, the poor part of a club like that, and that's how she saw it. And that's, I think, those places where courtesy and kindness and consideration and protocol, rules
Right.
that you must follow.
Right.
I mean, most people would sneer at the fact is that you must wear a tie and a jacket. The strange thing is, in the rules, it doesn't say what you must wear as trousers. But
Well, I mean, what's wrong with that? I mean, I have to go into a supermarket. I have to wear shoes. I mean, so you
Yeah.
wear. So I had to wear a beautiful, gorgeous, beaded black dress. I mean, so what? I had to rough it that night. Oh well.
Well, I think sometimes is I went with you met him briefly, one of my friends here, neighbours, David Evans, and we went to an Italian restaurant called Ask, where the prices are not exactly that low. They're not high either, but they're not low. But all the staff were in jeans and T-shirts, and one was in actually a boiler suit. And now, for a restaurant, particularly of that level, for the staff to be dressed like that, to me, actually, I find very upsetting. I think that
it's sad because I think, with COVID and everybody working from home, we've just gotten into a world of everybody's wearing pajamas. And so I think we just need to raise, because I think what happens is when you dress up and when you take care with what you're wearing, it makes you feel better. It
absolutely.
doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to be thoughtful. It's almost a celebration. I'm getting dressed, I'm looking nice, I'm presenting myself to the world in a beautiful way. Not just throwing something on and not caring. That's what that shows. It shows that you don't care. You wear a t-shirt and jeans. You should see some of the things I see out there. I'm always shocked. Maybe I'm old fashioned, whatever. So call me old fashioned. I don't care.
Nothing wrong being an old-fashioned. Is some of the standards that I am scathing about our governance at the moment, and I say that it's a whole host of people who have lost the sense of duty that they have as members of Parliament. They are much more likely to be offended by Boris's iced Christmas cake than they are to attending to their duties and actually setting some sort of standards. It's appalling, absolutely appalling. Aren't we lucky to be the age? Well, I'm the age that I am. You're still of spring chicken, but is to be able to rant and rave. And if they come and break my nose, it doesn't matter, as long as they don't actually slit my throat. Then I wouldn't be able to talk.
Well, let's not put those ideas out there, okay?
Now it's 10:57, and you've been absolutely gorgeous as usual, been with us for an hour. We've gone through a lot of things this morning, and I am grateful to you. And I actually, people who, either let us know what they like and what they don't like about the show, really enjoy both you and Suzanne, because you give an insight into life in the United States, and also how Americans think, because everybody assumes that they know, right? We watch a detective series on television, and we know how the police behave. We know how the criminals behave. We know how they roar around the streets in cars. Oh yes, don't we? A touch of reality.
That I think that is very, like I'll call it out. It's just the grandness of the United States. We're really just people like you. You go to work, you come home, you just, you want to make a living. It's all the same. It's just New York is, and not just New York, but the United States is just so big.
Yes,
like, oh
it is.
God.
Absolutely.
I marvel at it too. So.
Yes,
but I do love your country. It's so adorable. You all are so cute. You don't realize how cute you are.
Well, actually, I must confess is I am pleased that I live in Lewis, because it is rapidly ceasing to be a typical town. We now got something similar to small towns in the United States, where you start off with the Top Shop, and you go through a series of coffee shops, and then a hardware store, and so on and so forth, with no redeeming features. As you well know, when you walk through Lewis, you've only got to step out through the front door, and you're into history. And then you go from history to history, to history, to history, to history, to history.
Wonderful.
Oh,
really wonderful.
Our Stuart is here. Don't go. Do you not want to come and talk to Melissa? No, eh? Come and say hello to Melissa. Here's our Stuart. He took a tumble the other day, so he's a bit bruised. But
Stuart.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
Not so good, but I'm
you
all
took
right
a
now.
tumble. Oh
Yeah.
no.
It's old age, dear.
Oh no.
Old age with him is like old age with me. He can't sit still.
Well, that's good. I mean, you got to keep active. You guys are wonderful.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Have you been following the old energy crisis thing over here?
I'm sorry, what was that, Stuart?
The energy crisis here.
Yeah, I'm reading in the news about that. It's very frightening. And it's sad to hear about the pubs closing, and because there's such a wonderful place to meet people and talk and have a good time. That's very sad.
Yeah, but the whole thing is just ridiculous because they've failed systematically to have a proper energy.
It's something you all, I mean, in Europe, oh my gosh. I can't even think
Do you know
about it.
what's happening now? Do you know what's happening now? But see, the thing about it is that back in the day when there was an energy crisis in 1974, the coal miners' strike meant that the energy they had to give up on coal, so they went to gas, and gas seems to be the flavour of the day. And unfortunately, Margaret Thatcher, when she became prime minister, privatised the gas companies, which was a terrible thing to do because it led to an oligopolistic cartel of 6 companies called the Big Six: British Gas, E.ON, EDF, Scottish Power, SSE, and one more, Empower. Yeah, and they charged whatever they like, ever what they wanted.
And I'm sure they all colluded too. So
They all colluded, and then secondly, it became a political issue. And Ed Miliband, who was leader of the Labour Party in 2012, said, if I get in, I will have an energy cap. But he didn't get into power in the 2015 election. David Cameron did. But David Cameron was spooked by the idea of an energy cap, and he asked the Competition and Mergers Authority what to do. And they dithered and dithered and dithered, and they said, yes, it's absolutely true. The consumer is being ripped off to the tune of £1.4 billion a year because of the standard variable tariff. So he said what they should do is actually bring in cheaper suppliers. And then you know what happened. About 70 of them came in, but they weren't fit for purpose. They couldn't meet when the gas started going up, they couldn't meet the good deals that they set out. So 30 of them went bust. And out of 50, there's about 24 of them left. So that went on and went on. And then after that, the government didn't know what to do. They had no idea. So go forward, and what happened was Rishi Sunak said, I'm going to give £650 to all the poor people and £400 to every home in the country. And that's what's supposed to happen right now. But it's absolutely ridiculous because it's like Peter paying for Paul. Because a few days after, in May it was, Rishi Sunak said about this 650 and 400. The head of the regulator, because in 2019, Theresa May had started an energy cap. And anyway, so where was I? So Jonathan Brearley, the actual regulator, head of the Ofgem, the regulator, was called to the House of Commons for a select committee meeting, and he told them the cap was going to go up by £800, taking it to almost £3,000. Well, that's fuel poverty, incredible fuel poverty, right? And that seemed to be all over. And then finally, when everybody got very, very worried, they said, yeah, the energy cap on October is going to go up it will go up on April the 1st. No, it will go up in October now to 3,500. And they also changed the deal. There used to be 2 dates where the energy cap was set. April 1 and October 1. And now they've decided to have it 4 times a year. So every 3 months, it goes up again. So in January, after October, it's going to go up to 4.2. And various people, like the Chelsea consultant, says it's going to go up to £6,000, which means that the average household will face a bill of £500, half their income. Absolute chaos, absolutely despicable. And all the time, right, these energy companies were saying that we're not making profits. Hang on. The energy companies, the cartel, what was left of it, 600, they said we're not making any profits. Well, I happen to have a thing here from the Bank of England, allegedly, which says this, right? Right. Start here. British Gas made a profit of 1.3 billion from January to June. The boss of British Gas, or Central, which owns British Gas, had a salary of £2 million a year. Okay, Scottish Power, the boss there, Keith Anderson, has a salary of 1.5 million. E.ON, Lewis Miller, 1.5 million. EDF, Simone Rossi, 1 million. They're all paying this. This money should have gone to be helping the poor or investing in their companies. And yet they're getting these fat cat salaries. It's so obscene. It's my blood.
Haven't you privatize these industries like healthcare? Please don't do that. Please don't do that.
No, that's a threat. I actually think that any government will be frightened of doing that, to be quite honest, Melissa, because the NHS, for all its warts, is a sacred cow here, and tampering with that is more than any government, I think, would do, unless you've got people so thick in charge. Oh, hang on, so thick in charge, they just might do it.
No, hang on. No, look, it's Britain's greatest achievement. It won't be tampered with.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Unless you've got people so thick that they don't understand.
The problem with it is really that it's all actually Tony Blair's fault, because when he was in power, he said, "I'm going to invest in the NHS," and what he did was give the money to lots of consultants and administrators, right? And that has lasted to this day. 50% of people employed by the NHS are consultants and administrators. If only they'd start.
How long do they need to consult? I mean, how long do they need to consult? Okay, got your advice. We'll implement it.
Well, the consultant means basically that private surgeons can actually get money from the NHS to do an operation, and then they do another operation privately. So they get paid twice. It's ridiculous.
Okay, right. I think we have to leave it there because it is now 11:08 and time for us to say goodbye. It's been another great feisty morning. We've had 5 feisty programs this week, everybody arguing and fighting with everybody else. But the fact of the matter is a lot of good information has come out that would remain tucked away in the annals of Whitehall unless we at Mirador Television winkled it out between us. Melissa, a delight always, darling, to see you. And I hope that you have a good weekend. And we will see you this time next week.
Now, one finishing point.
Wonderful to see you, gentlemen. It's so nice to see you. Have a wonderful week.
He wants to make one more point to you.
It's occurred to me that your shouting has affected my inner ear, my perilymph, and that accused for my lack of balance.
Yeah, he fell over because he lost his balance, and now he's saying it's because of my loud voice.
It's because of you shouting in my ear hole. That's why.
Well, yes, I think you need to. Yeah, let's tone it down there, Keith.
No way. That's been my strength all my broadcast life.
Have a wonderful week, gentlemen. Thank you.
And you too, Melissa. Thanks for being with us. And the cat's tail is going, so he's telling you that he wants some attention as well.
Hungry. He's hungry.
Toodle pip.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, Melissa Conti and the old curmudgeon come strolling in as usual. A fine mess you've got me in, Ollie. Yes, bringing us up to date on the energy crisis is what is exercising the printed media too, because it is often part of the front pages. So we are not out of step one little bit. So from him and from me, we'll say good morning, toodle pip, and we will see you again on Monday, and we will look forward to it. This is Mirador Television, broadcasting out of the White Hart Hotel in Lewes, East Sussex, in the United Kingdom, at 11:10 on the 2nd of September 2022, with the heat outside about to reach 24, and another very decent day. Cheerio.